Modern men aren't weak because society made them weak. They're weak because they chose to live that way. They took Stoicism, a warrior's philosophy from ancient times, and turned it into a shield for their avoidance, numbness, and passive surrender. They talk about Stoicism like they've reached some higher state of awareness, but really, they're just playing the part of someone who gets it, while deep down they're empty, numb, and powerless. This is not Stoicism. Stoicism isn't a collection of motivational quotes. It's a way of life, living with responsibility, discipline, confrontation, and action. In this video, I'll show you 5 common Stoic mistakes that even the self-proclaimed awakened ones still make every single day without even knowing it. If you dare to face the truth, keep watching. If not, you can turn this video off right now and keep living the same way you always have. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like if you're new here. It helps me keep bringing you more valuable content. Don't confuse composure with numbness. Don't hold up your blank stare as proof of control. A lot of men are walking around like stone statues, thinking that being emotionally detached makes them look cooler, more mature. They call it Stoicism, but it's not. It's escapism, disguised in philosophy. A Stoic man doesn't need to act. He doesn't force a serious face, doesn't clench his body just to look emotionless. He feels everything, clearly, but still chooses to act with reason. He knows anger is real, sadness is real, hurt is real. And instead of avoiding them, he welcomes those emotions like guests, let them come in, stay a while, then move on. But today's society is cheering on a distorted version of Stoicism. They believe the less you speak, the less you feel, the less you connect, the stronger you are. They teach men to swallow their tears, bury their anger, force a fake smile, and call it self-control. But the truth is, you can't control anything you're too scared to face. The more you suppress emotions, the more they quietly tear you apart from the inside. The more you run, the harder they chase. I've met guys who always act cool, ice cold, never angry, never showing weakness, but just one minor shock, getting fired, getting betrayed, one deep enough insult, and they shatter like glass. Because they were never strong, they were just frozen. A defense mechanism built on fear, not discipline. Real Stoicism doesn't tell you to silence your heart. It tells you to listen to it, but not hand it the steering wheel. It doesn't ask you to become a robot. It teaches you to be human, with inner strength. And that strength doesn't come from pretending to feel nothing. It comes from feeling everything and still staying in control. You can be hurt without falling apart. You can be sad without running away. You can be angry without losing your mind. The difference is, you choose to act with purpose, not let your instincts pull your strings like a puppet. So if you're proud that you don't feel anything, maybe you're just slowly dying and don't even know it. That's not transcendence. That's the sign of a soul too afraid to live honestly. Stoicism wasn't made to kill emotion. It was made to turn emotion into a servant of reason. You don't need to harden to prove you're strong. You need to learn how to stay soft without breaking, feel deeply without falling apart, hurt, and still move forward. That's real strength. These days, people are abusing the word acceptance as a perfect excuse to do absolutely nothing. They get rejected, they fail, they hit rock bottom, and then they sigh, "I accept my fate." No, you don't. You're resigning, and that's a betrayal of your own life. Stoicism never glorifies surrender. It teaches you to face reality, understand what's beyond your control, and then act relentlessly on what you can control. True acceptance begins when you understand your limits, but never stop reaching beyond them. Resignation is when you let go. Acceptance is when you grip tighter to fight for what's left. Resignation is the sweet trap of the lazy. Acceptance is the starting line of a real warrior. The difference is whether or not you get back up after you've fallen. But people have become more sophisticated with their excuses. They say things like, "Everything happens for a reason. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. I guess this is my destiny." These sound stoic, sound philosophical, but they're just polished translations of giving up. That's not wise acceptance. That's surrender, dressed up as philosophy. If Marcus Aurelius heard you whining like that, he'd look you straight in the eyes and ask, Did you give it everything you had? If Epictetus heard you blaming your circumstances, he'd smirk and say, "Have you ever asked yourself if you've lived according to reason?" Acceptance in Stoicism always comes with personal responsibility. You can lose everything, but you never lose your ability to do what's right, even when the world is unfair. Acceptance is not bowing your head. It's raising your head, staring the truth in the face, and moving forward, even when your feet are bleeding. You accept that you're poor? Or are you just too afraid of failure to even start? You accept that you're lonely? Or are you too insecure to build real relationships? You accept your terrible job? Or are you just too lazy to learn a new skill? Don't lie to yourself. Most of what you call acceptance is really just a choice to settle for mediocrity. That's not Stoicism. That's victimhood, hiding behind a philosophical mask. Stoicism doesn't tell you to accept everything and sit still. It tells you to stare reality in the face, stop whining, and do what's right, regardless of whether the conditions are ideal or not. If you're in pain, act in the pain. If you've suffered loss, act in the loss. If you feel powerless, act within the sliver of choice you still have. When you say, "I accept," ask yourself one thing. After accepting it, what did I do to change it? If your answer is nothing, then sorry, you're just resigning. And life will treat you exactly like someone who has resigned. You'll be left behind. There's something terrifying quietly happening in the minds of many modern men. They confuse emotional control with emotional suppression. A subtle, dangerous mistake, and if you don't catch it soon, it will turn you into a ticking time bomb, living in denial and dying in regret. Suppression is locking your emotions in a dark basement, throwing away the key and pretending they don't exist. You don't look at them, don't talk about them, don't admit they're there. Every time you're angry, you swallow it. Every time you're hurt, you go silent. Every time you're afraid, you laugh it off. And then you soothe yourself with phrases that sound mature. It's nothing, I'm fine, no big deal. But make no mistake, inside, you're not fine. You're rotting from the inside out. And then what happens? You lose control at exactly the worst moment. You scream at your wife over a dirty dish. You punch a wall because of a small scratch on your car. You can't explain why you always feel empty, irritated, lifeless. It's not because you're weak. It's because you never learned how to process your emotions. You only learned how to bury them. Control isn't about feeling nothing. Control is about feeling everything and not letting any of it grab the wheel. When you're angry, you know you're angry. You name it, you face it like a man, and then you ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And what's the right thing to do right now? That's Stoicism. Stoicism never told you to become stone. It simply said, don't let your wild instincts run the show. It's not anti-emotion. It's the art of taming emotion, and you can't tame something you refuse to face. You don't train emotional control by avoiding it. You have to go straight into the center of your anger, your sadness, your disappointment, and learn how to stay rational while your emotions are screaming. That's a hard drill, a brutal one, but it's the only path if you want to become a man with true inner strength. The world doesn't need more men wearing blank expressions, living lives that pretend they don't hurt. The world needs people who know exactly what they're feeling and still act with clarity, without losing direction, without turning into victims. Look at yourself. Are you pretending to be fine while everything inside is falling apart? Are you avoiding real self-confrontation by overworking, gaming, drinking, or burying your face in your phone? None of that helps you gain control. It just delays the collapse. A grown man doesn't run from his inner world. He walks into it like a battlefield, ready to fight, not to destroy his emotions, but to lead them. That's real control. But if you keep pushing everything down, one day the basement where you've locked your emotions will explode, and you won't know what gets destroyed with it. Stop wasting another day living in weakness and chaos. Subscribe to Stoic Success now to build an unbreakable mindset, master your emotions, and face life like a warrior. There's a dangerous misunderstanding of Stoicism, just as harmful as any rigid dogma. The belief that to be unshakable, you need to withdraw from life. live detached, untouched, unloved, and unhurt. A lot of men, after betrayal, failure, or collapse, start building walls around themselves. They don't call it running away. They call it cleansing, protecting their energy, or finding peace. But real peace doesn't come from avoiding impact. Real peace can only be achieved in the middle of the battlefield. Yes, Stoicism teaches you not to let life control you, but it never told you to walk away from life. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of an entire empire. He governed politics, led armies, loved his wife, lost children, endured betrayal, and lived surrounded by rot within his own court. And through all of it, he kept his reason and lived by his principles. If Stoicism meant retreating to a mountaintop, Marcus wouldn't have written meditations inside a military tent during campaign. Stoicism isn't for those who run from reality. It was built for those who confront it daily. You don't become stronger by cutting yourself off from the world. Yes, love will hurt you, but it's also what makes you grow. Yes, family will exhaust you, but it's also where you learn unconditional love. Yes, work will pressure you, but it's also where you forge resilience. Everything that hurts you also shapes the man you're becoming, if you don't run from it. Too many people aren't really living, they're just existing. They wake up, work, eat, and try to avoid anything that might stir their soul. They shut their hearts off from the world and call that peace. But in truth, it's deliberate numbness. And you know what happens when a person stops feeling? They lose the one thing that makes them human: meaning. Stoicism doesn't teach you to ignore life. It teaches you to stand in the middle of it without getting swept away. It teaches you to play your role, whether that's as a father, a son, a leader, or a lover, and to do what's right, no matter what chaos is raging inside you. You don't have to become numb to be strong. You just have to know what's worth reacting to and what's not. And the only way to learn that is to stay in the game, to keep loving, hurting, falling, rising, to keep living. Cutting yourself off from life is not Stoicism. It's failure in disguise. You were born to hide in a safe little cave. You were born to step into the world and prove that reason can conquer chaos. No matter how wild it gets out there, inside you must remain the strongest fortress. You say you're living by Stoicism? All right, let me ask you straight. When life slams you to the bottom, what do? Do you get up, or do you open YouTube to find a healing video? When someone insults you, do you stay calm because you're in control, or because you're too weak to respond? You say you accept things as they are? Good, but after that acceptance, did you do a damn thing to change anything? Or did you just sit there, repeating everything happens for a reason, until it became a shield for your helplessness? You say you don't let emotions control you? Great, but do you actually dare to feel the pain? Or do you shove it down, ignore it, and call that maturity? A lot of you are using philosophy as an excuse, a fancy layer to cover up your cowardice. You don't act because you're scared. You don't love because you're scared of getting hurt. You don't commit because you're scared of losing. And instead of facing that fear head on, you throw a blanket of philosophy over it and call it enlightenment. Wake up. Stoicism isn't a warm blanket for you to hide under. It's fire, for you to walk into the storm and not collapse. If you're using Stoicism to justify a life half-lived, you're betraying the very philosophy you claim to follow. This world doesn't need another guy who understands Stoicism. It needs people who live it, which means living with discipline, reason, responsibility, and action. Understanding without action is just a dusty bookshelf, intelligent and useless. If you truly want to live stoically, then the next time life punches you in the face, don't turn away. Look straight at it. Ask, what can I do right now with what I have? And then do that thing. No whining, no blaming, no asking for permission. Stoicism isn't for the masses. It's for the few who take full ownership of every breath they take. It's not for those who only want to hear comforting truths. It's for those who accept the harsh ones and move anyway without needing a pat on the back. If you realize you're hiding behind excuses, step out. If you're using philosophy as a shield, drop it. And if all you've done is think about living stoically but never acted like a stoic man, then it's time to change. Right now. You've heard enough. The question now isn't how much you know, it's how far you're willing to do. You can keep reading books, listening to podcasts, posting philosophical quotes, and calling that living stoically. Or you can shut your phone, walk out that door, and act like a man with discipline and spine. No one gives a damn how much you know about Marcus Aurelius. What people see is how you respond when insulted, betrayed, or dropped into chaos. You can react like every average guy, blame, complain, withdraw. Or you can become someone even you respect, not because you're perfect, but because you face the truth and don't flinch. The Stoic path isn't for those waiting for motivation. It's for those who do what's right even when they've got no motivation left. So what's the choice? You can keep living the same way, hiding behind labels, saying I'm fine, suppressing, resigning, playing the role of the awakened. Or you can burn all that bullshit down and start living real. No validation, no applause, just you with one clear decision: act or shut the hell up. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.